friends, and welcome to your online training for Stay Woke, a simple but effective guide to staying self-aware during anxious moments. My name is Melody, and I will be taking you through this course. This training in general is just going to teach you some tips and some tricks for becoming a little bit more self-aware. We all have those moments where we have blind spots and we don't exactly realize what's going on. We kind of check out of the driver's seat for a minute. So what this training does is help you become a little bit more aware of those moments so that you can choose to use them as pivot points and as a catalyst to deeper self-awareness. Now, these moments tend to come a lot during anxious moments, during anxiety, if you have stress, those things. Moments where your fight or flight kicks in is generally where you have these moments of unconsciousness, these patterns of unawareness. And, we're going to take the opportunity to be more aware of those so we can choose to be more present. Later, I'm going to walk you through a process that you can do with the information that you've gathered that can help you really take control of those moments so that they don't take control over you. With that being said, when I talk about triggers and tells, the context that I'm discussing them with is according to this diagram. So as you see in the diagram, there is a trigger, and inside of the trigger, you're going to see thoughts, behaviors, bodily sensations, and emotions. So let's start off with the basics. What are triggers? Triggers are anything that sets you off or gets you out of the driver's seat. You know what I mean? Like anything that's one of those things that when it happens, you're no longer in the seat of awareness and it's just like Hulk moment, right? Or for some people, it's not Hulk. For some people, it's like drawing in or, walking away. It looks different for every person, but anytime that you are trying to retreat from the current moment, you are generally triggered. Being able to hone in and identify on our triggers is so empowering because it shines a light on the areas in which we're falling into unconscious patterns. And then it creates a pathway for awareness to make its way back into our lives in those anxious moments. And with that awareness, we can choose a response from a place of clarity. Triggers can come in the forms of people, places, smells, sounds, and situations. So when I say places, it could be a park or a train station that sets you off, that's triggered. Something could have happened there to you at one point in life, and now every time you're back there, you're a little bit triggered. As far as people, there are people that just set you off and rub you the wrong way. Smells, how many times have you smelled a cologne of your ex or a perfume of your ex and all you can think of was that ex? Sounds like loud noises and situations, so like public speaking. Those are what triggers are in that context. Ask yourself, is there anything that you're already aware of that's a trigger for you? It could also be a word. Like I know for me, I used to get triggered when people used to call me crazy or say anything dismissive. That would always kind of set me off. And then I also realized that I could tell when it was happening. So a tell for me was my heart would start racing and my hands would get sweaty and balled fists and different things like that. Balled fists because I was ready to snap and punch somebody in the face. So those are how I could tell that I was triggered. So take a moment and think of anything that you already know that's a trigger for you, right? And write that down. So in the context of this worksheet, there are thoughts, behaviors, bodily sensations, and emotions wrapped up in this circle that says trigger. So it's basically letting us know that once you're triggered, these are some of the things that you can use to identify your tells. I refer to tells as a speed bump because they have the potential to slow you down when you're fast tracking on your way to an anxious moment. Let's get a little bit more into what tells look like. Tells are, I have two definitions, a conscious or unconscious action that communicates information or provides insight into your current emotional or mental state. A secondary definition I have is anything that you can recognize as a flag to let you know that you have been triggered or are tiptoeing in your Jordans toward being triggered. So these are little things that you can just point out that kind of let you know that you're on your way there. Okay guys, so before we move on further, I want to talk to you a little bit about a hack that I have for recognizing tells. We need to check in continuously to see where we are, not only when we're triggered, but just randomly throughout the day, just ask ourselves, Where are we at? How are we? What's our mental state like? What's our emotional state like? How am I feeling? If you choose to take on a solution-focused mindset when checking in, you will automatically set yourself up for success, because whenever it is that you are not focusing on the solution and you're ruminating on the problem, you'll be able to tell that you're triggered. An example of that is if a situation arises and you're triggered. If you're solution focused, all of your thoughts are going to move towards you getting out of a triggered state. If you were being problem focused, you were going to look at all the reasons why you're justifying staying in that state, or looking at all the reasons that got you there and putting all of your energy into explaining why you're there rather than getting out of that triggered state. Now we're going to get a little bit more into recognizing those tells. So let's get a little bit more specific. When it comes to thoughts, we did talk about thoughts a little bit, and we did talk about how a hack for that is to do your best to be solution focused. That way, if your thoughts are not solution focused, you can tell that you're triggered. Moving to behaviors, generally people are behaving in a way that is either fight or flight. We tend to avoid, deny, and defend. So anytime that you are trying to run away from the situation or fight, attack, belittle, any of the time those actions are coming into play, that's a good way to tell that your behavior is indicating that you are triggered. Bodily sensations, that can be different for everyone. Heart pounding, balled fists, sweating, different things like that. Like, just think about a time that you have been triggered. How did that look in your body? Were you tense? Were your shoulders hunched? What were some bodily sensations that could let you know that you were triggered? And emotions. So anytime there is a noticeable shift in your emotional state, or anytime that your emotion is elevated in a way that's disproportionate to the situation. So yes, you may be angry about something that someone did, but like if it's something small and you notice yourself flying off the handle, you might be triggered. That's just a really basic way just to say, is the anger that I'm feeling proportionate to the situation? And it doesn't mean that if it's not, that your feelings aren't valid or that there's not really something going on there. However, it is important to use that as a way to get an indication of your emotional state. So now that we know what a trigger and a tell is, I want you to just take a moment and pause the training and try to think of a tell might let you know that you're triggered. So what do you do with all of this information, right? What does this do? What is the purpose of this? I want you to take a look at this chart. And this is how we create empowering alternative actions. So the goal here is we're going to notice our triggers. We're going to notice our tells. We're going to be able to see when we're triggered, what are some of the thoughts and emotions and behaviors that we're displaying. And then we're going to create empowering alternative actions. Now, these are things that are going to be suited to your particular triggers and tells that are going to give you alternative thoughts, actions, behaviors to implement that are taking you closer to the goal and to your progress and to the overall self-development that you're really striving for, that these blind spots and being triggered are kind of stopping you from. So we're going to notice your triggers. We're going to notice your tells. We're going to create these empowering alternative actions. And the next time that you have a little bit of awareness in the middle of a trigger, you're going to say, "Oop, I am not going to act in the way that I normally act. I'm going to choose this empowering alternative thought or alternative action and allow yourself to take control of the moment and create the life that you know that you want rather than reacting because you don't have control." Here's a helpful tip. The people closest to us can generally see our blind spots and know the things that trigger us and know those tells more than we do, because that's why they're called blind spots, because generally we can't really see them. So a helpful tip is to ask people that you trust to help you see these things within you. But I do want to say one thing. Before you choose to ask people to help you, be prepared that you might hear something that you weren't expecting to hear, or something that might not feel so great to hear. And it's not fair to ask somebody to help you see something within yourself and then attack them when they tell you the truth. So in order to set yourself up for success, I want you to try an exercise. Before you ask anybody to help you see any of these things with further clarity, take 10 seconds and mentally prepare yourself to receive whatever you hear with grace. Write down a sentence that says, I intend to receive this information in a way that I can use to pivot and, learn from and become a better person. And it's my dominant intent to, receive it with grace and not attack the people who give it to me. And it might seem a little overkill, but wait until you start actually getting into these practices. There's times where you're going to hear things and you're like, what? Like, no, but yeah. The more you do it, the quicker the turnaround time you will have. Just stick with the exercise, and before you know it, you'll start to see the results that will give you even more buy-in to stick with these exercises. And you'll be able to know that it's working when all of a sudden you catch yourself before things escalate, moving towards a triggered moment, and you're able to stop yourself and then have more clarity with the situation. Or you can tell by someone's response to you that you are triggered, and even though you're in the middle of being triggered, you understand what's happening so you can take control back. Those are just two of the ways that you can tell that the work is working. All right, friends, I hope you found some of this information to be helpful. Hopefully you can start right away writing down, making a list of your triggers and your tells, and create empowering alternative actions. I look forward to seeing you guys soon.